Three girls watching TV shows, and some of it's good and some of it blows. And when we finish the movies, yeah, we need a scotch, and we turn to each other and say, what did we just watch? Guys.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Sorry, we recorded like half of a pod and it didn't actually record, so now we're a little sad about it. So that's why the vibes are kind of low.
The Zoom lady lied to us. She said this meeting is being recorded, but it wasn't.
It was not. They said I had no storage, but I had plenty of storage, so.
Yeah, so
Kiana gave a beautiful and very detailed
I was
and
almost
charming
done,
recap, and we were all vibing and laughing along, and now we're going to not do any of that magic. It'll still have the Wilkerson charm because it's Kiana, but it will also be largely from the Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
We hope you understand, and we'll give our full heart in the discussion of the movie after.
Yes. So we watched a Hulu original, False Positive, with Ilana Glaser in it, who is from Broad City. So we were very surprised that she did a series role, but she actually does it really well. You would have gotten all of this in the last one, but now I'm going to rush you through it. I don't even know how to begin this. Okay, so this movie is about a couple, Lucy and Adrian Martin, and they've been trying to have a baby for 2 years, and it hasn't been working. But Adrian knows a guy, Dr. Hindle, who is a fertility doctor who is known, like a renowned fertility doctor. So he's like, don't worry, I got us. So they go and they talk to Dr. Hindle. He's like, I love making babies. I love making women into mommies, and I love making them smile. And we're like, okay, you're a little creepy. And Dr. Hindle is played by Pierce Brosnan. So that just adds another level of like kind of creepiness to it. Because you're like, Pierce Brosnan. So of course, because this is a movie and it's called False Positive, she gets pregnant because that's how it goes. So after Dr. Hindle assimilates her using a technique that he invented, which is a mix between an IUI and an IUF. They don't really explain how it works. He just says he's created and he's like God. Anyway, so she has some work problems. She wants to get on this super fancy account, and the men, because she only works with men, and her office is like, I think you can do it. But also she's trying to get pregnant. So you know what that means. There's going to be a little bit of drama with her being a working mommy, obviously. So during an ultrasound, she discovers that she's pregnant with 3 embryos, 2 male twins and a female. So Dr. Hindle, considering the circumstances, suggests a selective reduction, which means that either she aborts the twins or the female embryo to make sure there's a healthy pregnancy for both. So her and Adrian, Lucy and Adrian, have a fight. Not really a fight, just a little small tiff about whether or not to abort the twin boys or the daughters. But she wants to have a little girl named Wendy so she can like become a mother to a daughter, similar to her mother who passed away a few years ago. And eventually Adrian is like, okay, so I can relent. We can have the baby girl. So they do the selective reduction. It's a horrifying scene, very traumatizing. So just be aware of that. They have a selective reduction. During the selective reduction, she hears Adrian and Dr. Hindle talk of being like, she won't, like, we're gonna make sure that she has a healthy baby. She won't, like, she doesn't care. Like, we're trying to get her to have a fairy tale ending. And she's a little suspicious because she's like, that's a little weird. And she asks her husband about it, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. You're just a little loopy. And she's like, okay. But during this time, she is going to a expecting mothers group. So she's going to a mommy group, and she meets Corgan, who becomes like her like confidant when she's getting a little bit suspicious of the doctor and her husband. So after that, she is looking into a magazine, and this magazine has Dr. Hindle on it. But also in the corner, it talks about the midwife of soul, which is Grace Singleton, a spiritual midwife with a natural approach. And Lucy's kind of like fascinated with her. She's like, she wanted a natural birth anyway. So she is like very drawn to Singleton. So when she meets up with Corgan after the mommy group, and Corgan shares that she's having like complications with her pregnancy, she's a little worried about it, and Lucy's trying to comfort her. But then it switches over to Adrian presenting Hindle with an award, because Adrian and Hindle, I think I said this earlier, are good friends. Adrian was Hindle's medical student, so they're both like doctors. And Hindle wanted Adrian to present at this conference about how great Hindle is. So Adrian presents, and he's like, "We love Hindle. Everything's great." And the whole crowd is like, "Yeah, Hindle, we love him." It's great. Except for no, it's a bunch of old white people being like, "Clap, clap, 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 clap." There's no cheering. So that night, Lucy finds a safe in Adrian's office. She's slowly becoming suspicious of him, that Hindle did something to her own daughter, and Adrian's like knows about it. But Corrigan's like, Corrigan? That is our...
So close. So close.
Shout out Corrigan.
Corgan ensures that it's just mommy brain. She's just freaking out because she has mommy brain.
Mommy brain.
While watching a video at Grace's website, Lucy hallucinates a meeting with her where Grace is like, just let it all out, and Lucy's like screams, but in real life, and Adrian's like, "You good, homie?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm fine, whatever." So after Lucy has further complications, including abdominal pain, Hindle just like blames this on depression and prescribes her Xanax, and he's like, "Just take a couple of pills a day and you'll be fine." And she's like, "I don't really trust you."
Pop those babies down.
So Lucy meets with Grace and shares that she lost her mother, which we didn't know about at this point, but it like kind of made sense. So she's right now projecting on her own unborn daughter, which is not good, but whatever. So after having a dream where she sees Hindle and Adrian having sex, we watch Adrian give Pierce Brosnan head, and while he turns around, while he turns around and his eyes start to bleed, it's pretty crazy. Lucy opens Adrian's safe and finds a file on her, concluding evidence that she is being monitored. She shares this with Corgan, who takes the file to her lawyer husband, Brad. And she's like, "Don't worry, girl, I got you. Like, I'm going to give this to my husband, and we're going to figure out this. But also, why don't you talk to your husband?" And she's like, "No, that's crazy. Why would I do that? I'm suspicious of him." Corgan suggests that Lucy behaves normally until she knows more. But eventually, Lucy confronts Adrian, admitting she doesn't feel safe with Hindle, and that she wants to switch with Grace, and that she wants to quit her job. So she wanted to get a higher position. She wanted to get a new contract in her job, and she had it until they were like, "Oh, you're pregnant, and this is going to be like really strenuous, and you're going to be a mom soon. So we don't want you to actually have this account, because women can't work
illegal
and be a mommy." But, you know that, right?
It's fine.
So she's like, "I'm going to quit my job. And also, I'm having a baby shower at Corgan's house." So at the baby shower, Corgan gives her a book, a Peter Pan book, which is the book that her mother read, Lucy's mother read to her as a child. And that's why she wants to name her daughter Wendy after that character. And Corgan calls her Lucia instead of Lucy. And Lucia is a name that is her real name, but she goes by Lucy, and she doesn't really use Lucia at all. So she's So Lucy's like, excuse me? How do you know that real name? Just despite never having to share it. So when she goes to the bathroom at Corgan's house, she finds medicine prescribed by Dr. Hindle to Corgan. And she's like, girl, you've been lying to me this whole entire time. And Corgan's like, well, I wanted a second opinion from a doctor, and your husband was able to get me in with Dr. Hindle, because again, Dr. Hindle's like very famous. So she didn't get off. She didn't want to miss this chance, and they're having troubles with the baby. So they just wanted to make sure that the baby was fine. And while Lucy's confronting Corgan, her water breaks and she goes into labor. So she goes into labor, and Grace like gives birth, and lo and behold, instead of a baby girl, it's a boy. And she's like, and Grace is like, oh. And Adrian's like,
Dr. Hindle's like,
and Grace is like, but Lucy's bleeding a lot. So Grace is like, you need to go to a doctor. So they Uber instead of calling an ambulance. They Uber while she's bleeding all over.
She's literally already given birth to one child.
She gave birth to one child. Went into the ER, and for some reason, Dr. Hindle is there, and he's helping her give birth to the second baby. He's like, oh yes, this baby boy is so strong. We love him so much. And like Lucy's traumatized at this point because she's like, hello, I wanted the baby girl, and yet I have two baby boys. So hold on, let me get to the point. So she becomes like very disillusioned and like depressed. Adrian's like riding a high. He's like, woohoo, these baby boys will be the best thing that ever happened to us. You need to stop being so sad. We love our babies. We gave birth to them. He's using a lot of we when she did most of the work, if not all the work. And actually all the work, because they're not technically his.
Yeah, literally every single part
involved.
And she's like going through the motions. She goes to talk to Grace. And she's like, this is not how I thought your place was. And she's like, no, I was literally like, this is my house. Like Grace had a normal setup and not like some weird spiritual voodoo kind of thing. And Lucy was like, oh. And she's like, yeah, I'm not your spiritual negress, because Grace, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, is the only person of color and the only Black person in this movie. So she's like,
the entire film.
She was like, yeah, Lucy, you were definitely projecting on me. And she was like, damn, I really was. So Lucy's like, I'm tired of this shit. I'm going to go to Dr. Hindle's office and I'm going to confront him there. So she goes to Dr. Hindle's office, and Dawn, who is his assistant, meets her, and she's like, takes her to a room. She's like, hey, you have a good life here. You have two strong baby boys, and you don't need to worry about this like dead baby girl. Like, forget about her. You have children. And she's like, Lucy's like, can't, because that's what she wanted, and she didn't have that choice. So while Grace leaves, she sneaks into the lab, which is a back room in the back of the office, and she's like going through things. For some reason, the placenta and embryo of the baby girl is just lying on the table in a bag. Like, it's been days since the birth, and it's just lying on the table.
I hate it so much. Sorry.
It's horrifying. And Pierce Brosnan, Dr. Hindle, comes in. He's like, hey, you see that? It's okay, because you have big, strong baby boys. Because, like, the world is bad, and I try to change the world by making more of me. And she's like, excuse me? More of you? And he's like, yes. Do you not see this drawer? This fridge full of my sperm? I made more of you. Which means, ding, 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 you probably guessed it from this movie, is that the sperm that we thought was Adrian's was not. It was actually Dr. Hindle's, because he believes that he has the best genes, and he wants to create more of him, like Aryan race style kind of eugenics. And she's like, oh God, you raped me. And he's like, don't be hysterical. That's not what happened. But it's pretty much what happened, because he put his sperm in her. And he's been doing that with all his patients, which means Corgan's baby is probably not Brad the lawyer's baby. it's probably Pierce Brosnan's baby. Because they got a second opinion and the birth is fine now. So he tries to drug her, but she's like, nah. So she kicks him in the balls and puts him in a medical chair. But then Dawn comes in and tries to like kill her. And she puts, what's the thing she puts in Dawn's mouth? That's the thing that probes.
The sucky thing.
Yeah, she sticks a whole medical instrument down Dawn's mouth, and we thought Dawn's dead.
It was like an internal ultrasound thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She sticks it down her throat. It was quite impressive, and Dawn just takes it out, and she says, "I have no gag reflex," which good on Dawn, I guess.
Why did they add that in?
I guess it was unnecessary.
And she they go at it, they beat each other up, but she eventually knocks Dawn out, and she punches Lucy punches Dr. Hindle, but doesn't kill him. She just punches him to death. That's why she's bloody, and she just walks away, and she goes into the main office, and she's like, I think you guys need a new doctor. Before I forgot that she pushes over the fridge full of his sperm, destroying it.
Yeah.
That's important. I mean, he can make more because she didn't cut off his penis, but I get the method, you know? So she goes back to her house, and we see this dream sequence of her, in the background, Peter Pan is playing. She takes the baby boys. We think that this is real, so we think she's about to throw the baby boys out the window. So she just lets them go, and they kind of just float, similar to Peter Pan when they have pixie dust and they just float away, and we're like, oh my god, did those babies just drop to the ground? Turns out that was just a dream. It was a hallucination.
It was just a dream.
We were horrified if that was how this movie is gonna end, but wait, it ends even worse than you expect. So Adrian comes in, and he's like, you good, homie? And she's like, basically she divorces Adrian. She gives him the children, the two baby boys, and she's like, get out of my house. And he's like, what am I supposed to do with these kids? And she's like, I don't know, figure it out. You wanted them so goddamn bad.
True.
Because I forgot to mention that Adrian and Hindle were gonna partner up, make a new partner for the fertility clinic. So Adrian, ding ding ding, you guessed it, was in it all along, ladies.
What? Of course he was.
And he's very confused. He was like, what am I supposed to do with these baby boys? And she's like, get out. So he just kind of walks away. And then the worst scene happens.
The worst one.
I don't want to talk about it.
So when Lucy leaves, she leaves the office. She brings the placenta and the embryo of the baby girl, and we're like, you don't really need to take that, but she does it anyway. She opens the bag up.
We all wish she hadn't done it. I think all of us remarked, wow, I really wish she wouldn't take that embryo with her.
She puts the little baby's head to her breast, and starts breastfeeding the baby. But again, she's hallucinating, so she thinks the embryo. She thinks the baby is alive and is sucking on her nipple, and she starts to cry, and that's how the movie ends.
That's what happened.
That's what happened.
And again,
that went off the deep end right at the end there.
Yeah, to put it plainly, that's
really
that's what happened.
It was mostly just it was a movie. We were watching it. Everything was fine, and then
everyone was just vibing. We were just
we were trying to figure out who was suspicious. We were suspicious of literally every single character that ever existed.
And pretty much every character was in on it. Yeah.
But the ending scene, wow, that really was very haunting. So if you watch the movie, be aware of the ending scene.
Yeah, huge content warning for just a lot of
I'm putting a trigger warning at the beginning of this video for some of this stuff. But yeah, no, that movie was wild, but not like in a good way. Is this a hot take? Like, I didn't think the movie was that good, but it was just like really weird. Like, I don't think the plot like was super. It was very like Rosemary's Baby vibes to me, also.
Yeah.
Like, where it was like really overtly like the same plot, but just like a little different because they can't like overtly plagiarize Rosemary's Baby. And I don't know, I just felt a little disconnected. But Ilana did a good job, you know, Queen.
She really did. She did a great job. But yeah, I agree. I felt a little disconnected because I feel like there were a lot of half-baked like themes and metaphors throughout that like had potential, but they kind of just there was like too much going on.
Yeah, I don't know.
And yeah, it definitely was reminiscent of like other stories.
Because they don't really explain why she is hallucinating as much as she is.
No.
Because we assumed that she was hallucinating because he was giving her drugs, but then he gives her drugs and she doesn't use them, so she's literally just hallucinating. And you're like, so half the movie you feel sorry for her because she's like being gaslit like all the time. She's like has normal pregnant woman concerns, and they're like, nah, you fine, like forget about it. But then in the other half, she like,
that's what they say.
That's what
forget about it.
That's what Pierce Brosnan said. She literally was like, I think I should have an ultrasound, and Pierce Brosnan was like, forget about it, you're good.
I actually just like touched your belly, and like I know that the baby that's definitely still in there that I didn't selectively reduce is just doing great.
His own sperm.
But like, I thought it was gonna be like similar, like I don't know. I thought it was gonna be more like demonic, if that makes sense, because the way the trailer was, I thought like the like weird baby, like her belly was moving.
Over. Yeah.
And like the red and like demon.
And it's called false positive, but it wasn't. It was a correct positive.
Well, I guess what was false is what baby that she had.
Yeah. That's
false was the baby, and who was the baby's father?
The baby. Sure. Also, can we talk about how I was talking to this with Kristen earlier when I was like, we're gonna watch this maybe. I said every horror movie, they just gaslight the fuck out of whoever's suffering. Every single time they're like, no one's ever been here for 30 years, you stupid bitch. But then like they're being haunted by someone, and like the person's
and
not
it's a
wrong.
Woman usually.
Of course, don't be insane.
pretty much every time.
Violence, terror, and like gaslighting could only happen to women in horror movies.
It was so much gaslighting.
Well, so and then the other like weird half-baked thing, like we were just talking about how they didn't really explain like why she was hallucinating, but they also don't clarify like what was gaslighting and what was hallucination. Like I'm still a bit unclear, because I think throughout the movie, like we obviously weren't sure, like we didn't know how it was going to end, but we were like, maybe like she's probably not hallucinating at all, like they're just doing evil things to her. And then it turned out like they were lying to her and gaslighting her and like doing horrible things behind her back, but like also she was hallucinating.
Yeah, not to the point where she was like hallucinating. Like the ending scene.
Well, at the end.
Yes, but the ending scene, not the scene where she's like breastfeeding, but the scene where she like throws her babies out, and we
thought the babies were dead.
Yeah, we were like,
we were like, what the hell?
I don't actually want the movie to end this way. Thanks.
Yeah, we literally are like, I think I would have given this movie 0 if she threw the babies out of the window by the end of it. Like, I think I would have
at least
just been
felt more like, I don't know. Yeah, it would have been.
It would have been very jarring. Yeah. Because like it's not the baby's fault that this has happened, so don't like throw them out the window.
Yeah, like, it really was like such a weird, like half-baked thing, because it's like also the reveal with like Grace, where they're like, "This isn't how you ever viewed me." So is like Lucy an unreliable narrator, or was she hallucinating, or like
it's
both?
It's like a combination of both, but I don't know to what ends.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like it would have been a very interesting story where we think she's being gaslighted this whole entire time, but she's just an unreliable narrator, and they're like, oh, she's really just like going crazy, if that makes sense.
They could have done that, but then they did the between thing where it was it was both.
They did
like,
it.
She was hallucinating and like he basically like abused and assaulted her. Like
similar
it's
to
both.
Pierce Brosnan's technique of between the eye.
God, wait. Yeah.
Wait.
Another layer to the metaphor.
It's all a metaphor.
It's like I assume their intention with the whole like Peter Pan babies flying away thing was like a metaphor of like she's letting them go, and then the next scene she like gave them to her husband and was like, "There, go away." Like it was like a metaphor for what was about to happen, but like what? It was it wasn't fully executed.
I mean, I also think they could have like done more with her like mom. Her mom issues. They were like,
once they said that, I was like, that makes so much more sense. Why didn't they?
They could have said that at the beginning.
Yeah.
Also,
they said it like halfway through the movie that she was like, like I want a daughter because of this reason. Because in the beginning we're like, okay, like she's really attached to having a daughter, but we really can't figure out like why.
Yeah, right. That's true because they made it seem like she was just like trying to like self-actualize and like live through her daughter's eyes, and we were like, that's pretty fucked up. Ilana Glaser, like we were on your side already, but now we're not so sure. But I mean, it's still like, even though you know it's about your mom, like still don't do that to your child. But like it was weird that they didn't explain it at that point in the movie.
There's so many like other things too, like Adrian is so blindly loyal to this doctor where they always were, but like they just reconnected when she was pregnant. So like, why is this man so willing to like be in an evil scheme where he monitors his wife and impregnates her with the doctor's sperm? Like, why? There is no buy-in for him except for like being a partner at the medical firm, but they don't give enough backstory for be like, oh, this is something he really wants to achieve. Like they're just like, oh yeah, all these things are coming from it. But like, why would he go so far? Like, I guess just because he's evil? Like, it was just weird.
Also, does that mean that like the reason why she wasn't getting pregnant wasn't because like her issues, it was just because Adrian just had like
probably. I was assuming that Adrian didn't know about the sperm because they had like, why would they have him like
jack off
into a cup?
Oh yeah, we forgot to say in the other version of this.
In the first review that Kiana did, we talked
in the first version when I went through every single freaking scene, there's a scene of Adrian going into going to go like jack off to get the sperm for the insemination, except for he like watches like super kinky porn, and which I thought was also going to come back. Like, was he going to start being like more aggressive or anything? But they have like one really bad like missionary sex scene that looks so boring.
Did not look fun.
And that is it. Like, he doesn't really have like, it didn't seem like he had those tendencies. Like the woman in the film, in the video, was being like choked out and like things like that. He was very dominating.
So like, I assumed that he knew about like selectively reducing the female embryo. Yes. Like, I assumed that he knew about that the entire time, but I assumed also that he didn't know that they weren't his.
But like,
babies. I don't know.
I don't know. They never say that. That's just an assumption on my part.
But also, I'm like very confused because, like, why would Adrian want to? Like, why do they want twin boys? So just because there would be more and that could give more. Like, why?
Because I guess that was like him being loyal to the doctor because the doctor recommended that, and he was like, "Yeah, that makes sense."
I feel like he had to know because Hindle was like, "This is the reason why we reduced the girl because like I want the seed to grow." Like, yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
you're right,
well, they said it.
But then, like, why is he loyal?
The girls. Yeah, they were like, the girl's just a little bit small, so I don't know if she'll like be okay, and the boys look healthy, which like they didn't really explain any further than that. So I assumed he was just being like super loyal and being like, yeah, that makes sense, but maybe there was like more to that. I don't know.
But he's so blindly loyal for no reason. Like, he just does, like, we don't know why he's so attached.
Because like, women don't understand their own bodies and they're just being, you know, hysterical. So he has to listen to the man.
Yeah, I also forgot to mention that, like, at the ending scene when she confronts Adrian, he still, like, very, like, denies that he has any part of, like, the knowing about like the selective reduction of the baby girl rather than the twins. Like he's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Which is not true because we heard her. But again, that could have been hallucinating when she heard. But again, all the things she was hallucinating about turned out to be kind of right. So like,
yeah,
right. Like it's just so many like random things where it's like, why did they have to have the whole like Adrian monitoring her? Like he didn't really monitor her. Like I don't know. It's just like it could have been creepier. Like I don't know. They tried to put surveillance as a theme in there, but then only to like show that she found out that he knew about it.
Yeah.
And to like it wasn't really like serving anything but that. And then I was just thinking 2 seconds ago about the hallucination stuff. Like Black Swan is like a very clear like a good execution of like you're not sure what's real or what's like hallucinations, but like you can distinguish by the end like that she is hallucinating and like
this like
is
that's
the product
the point
of
in the twist,
right? Where like
but
this
here
was just like,
it's just a movie. They did not execute on it at all.
I also forgot about, because of the surveillance, I also forgot, like, he gives her a bracelet, and I was like, oh, he must be tracking her through this bracelet. But they don't talk about that bracelet after that. Like, I was like, oh, I guess that's not her plot. I know I mentioned several times about her friends that she brings up. Like, she brings up her friends. Again. Yeah, they never appear at all. And she just is friends with Corgan, even though, like, I don't know. I don't know why they were drawn together. Like, I don't know why they decided to. Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes when movies have loose ends like this, I wonder, I'm like, did they intend to make it like a 10-episode series and then that just didn't work out and they had to cut it down?
Let's see the production.
I don't know.
That's a good question. I feel like this could have been really good. Here's my take on how the movie could have been a little creepier. Is that like the way the trailer portrayed it, it seemed like the evil doctor like inseminated her with like an evil baby. So like maybe the doctor was like a demon or the baby was a demon, which is again exactly the plot of Rosemary's Baby, but I'll forgo that because that's a good movie. So and so like maybe like that would be more interesting, and like she thinks it's this like her husband, so she's like all paranoid about her husband being like demonic and scary, but then it turns out it's doctor. I don't know. That would have been a little more interesting. I would need to think about it more.
I don't know. I did like that it was like a horror story based in like reality, like something that could like actually happen. Like I find that like more interesting typically, but that's like a personal preference. Like obviously there's a lot of like demonic horror movies that are good. But yeah, there definitely needs to be something to like tie everything together and maybe make it like a clearer story. And I think that would have been one way to do it.
I don't know. I also thought that like everyone in the fertility clinic was like overtly creepy, like to the point where I was like, why is she like she was creeped out like the first time she went there, and she's like, this is really weird, and I'm like, Lucy, just trust your gut, like don't go to this fertility clinic. So I thought it would be, but I feel like it would have been nice for us to like slowly like be like slowly insert the creepiness rather than like being like overtly creepy at first and being like, even though we knew from the trailer that the doctor was in on it, I think it would have been nice to see him being like a little bit more charismatic and charming so Lucy can trust him and then like see the creepiness come in.
That's a good point, actually. That might be better because I think if like from the jump it was like so weird, like all alarms buzzing, him like saying these like really like prophet-y, like preachy, like I am God, I know what I'm doing. Like, you know, he's weird.
He was like, I want to make clones of myself.
Right. Yeah. Right. Like, so if he was just like a normal guy, she trusts him, and then slowly she starts to realize like the madness around her and who's involved. Like that could have been for a better like coherent plot, probably. But
the first red flag at the fertility clinic was when she asked for an espresso and they gave her a green smoothie instead.
The first red flag is that
you got my order wrong. I'm not.
No, but it was like, it wasn't that they got it wrong. It was like, she was like, this is what I want to drink. And they were like, they recommended this for you. Here you go.
Oh yeah.
Or the first red flag is when they had her like like, I'm assuming Adrian set up the appointment and did not use her like the name that she goes by, Lucy.
Yeah.
And actually called her Lucia, and she was like, "That's not my name," which is like that's another plot point that they like why was she?
Really. Well, because Corgan, that's how she found out Corgan wasn't on the.
Yeah, but like,
yeah,
it feels like it felt like from that moment it was like really important because she was like, "Don't call me that," and you're like, "Why don't you want?"
Right?
Yeah, they never explained it. I was like, "Is something to do with your mom? Like, why don't you like your name? It's perfectly nice." But
yeah.
Okay.
Also, the way that like Dawn reacted to that, where she was like, "We've changed it right away." Like, if you like go to the doctor there and they're like, "Emmy," and I'm like, "Oh, actually, it's Emma," they'd be like, "Okay, like we'll change that. Okay, whatever." Like, I don't really care that much.
Yeah.
But they're like, "We'll change it right away. I promise. I'm so sorry. We'll change it right away." It's like, okay.
She was like, "Okay, that's
like,
great.
All right, I get it. Thank you. Like, what? Like, it was
yeah. Again, the vibes was weird already. We were already like, "Ew, Donna's gross. Get her off the screen. We don't want to see her."
Although, are the vibes ever not weird at a gynecologist's office? Like, honestly, the thing I will say about this movie is that the concept of like pregnancy and also visiting a gynecologist are like the perfect setting for a horror movie. Because those are things that I already fear. So it's great.
Anytime she was like spread eagle, ready for Pierce Brosnan's cold. He even talked about, he was like, "Hopefully I don't have cold hands." It was like uncomfortable.
Give me a shiver.
The subtitle was like speculum clanking, and it was like,
oh,
it's like, oh my god, like I like.
Ew.
And she like Ilana looked uncomfortable. Like she was like she was going through it. Like she was like,
exactly
yeah, I've had
the way you feel.
Yeah, exactly the way you feel. I was like, oh god, it was like horrifying to watch. Honestly, I think the scariest parts was her getting probed.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Absolutely.
Just his creepy ass hands and the vibe
and his voice
and his fake British accent.
Ugh.
Do you have anything else you want to talk about before we rate her up?
Rate her
up.
On a lighter note, can we talk about how the movie was a huge ad for the salad chain Dig In?
Yeah.
They talked about Dig In like 6 times. It's a real chain. They have it in Boston. It's like the same as Sweetgreen. And they could have just been like, "Oh, hey, Ilana Glaser, like, can you order lunch for us?" But instead, Greg was like, "Can we order Dig In today? I'd really love some Dig In. I think I'm gonna get the like black bean and salmon salad with beets." That sounds disgusting. That's definitely not what he said. But like he described like what was in the salad he was gonna order. Definitely had beets. I don't remember what else I had.
I think it was like
that tofu. Sounds great. I think I'll get like the salmon salad. And they had like a 30-second conversation about like their Dig In order.
4 times.
It was multiple scenes.
I just thought it was a bit, and then Emily was like, and Kiana were like, "No, that's actually a real restaurant." And I was like, "Oh, geez."
I thought it was a bit too. Emily was the one that was just like, "Oh,
okay,
yeah, they have one."
I also want to talk about we haven't talked about the acting. The acting of the main stars, like Adrian was like, okay, he wasn't great, but he was like. But anytime the coworkers came on, I was like, "Did you find these guys in the middle of the street?" They're like Greg is like, "Yes, I would like some beets and tofu salad. That sounds great. I would love some dig it."
Oh boy, Dig In. That sounds delightful.
He's like, "You are a mommy.
You receptacle.
You are a mommy. You cannot work on this job anymore. I hope that is okay. Thanks."
Weird.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like a lot of the mains were pretty good. Like Pierce Brosnan was great, freaking me out to the core. Alana was amazing, and then I think the person who played Corgan was also really good. And even Grace was not even Grace. Grace was good too, but like, yeah, the work buddies were just no head empty, no thoughts. They were just
they're like
words were floating out of their mouth.
Like, was that just the particular way that the movie wanted the vibes to be off in her workplace? Because like that could be realistic.
It was weird.
I don't
The
know.
men came in and I don't think I talked about it on this one, but the men came in when she told her work that she was pregnant, and they were like, oh yeah, you were glowing so well. Oh yeah, you're definitely pregnant. I could totally tell. And you're like, no, you can't. Shut up.
If I had like a group of my coworkers that were men, not just like women or like other people, like if they were specifically men, tell me, oh yes, we knew you were glowing, we could tell. I'd be like, what the fuck? Get away from me. Like, do I get a restraining order or something? Why are you paying attention to me so much? Don't perceive me.
And from there, they knew she was pregnant. She literally had a full, like, protruding baby bump while she was giving, like, her little talk. And then they were like, nah, we're not going to give it to you. They, like, completely blacked out that she was pregnant. And they're like, oh, yeah, we should not give it to the pregnant woman, I guess, because she can't work on maternity leave. And she's like, but I'm
actually still here.
Yeah, like, she was like,
Yeah,
I'm still here. I gave you all these ideas. And they're like, yeah. Greg is like, yes, I'm sorry. Would you like to order some food from Dig In?
Dig In. I know what will make you feel better. That's tofu and
beets.
A nice salad from Dig In.
And this podcast is sponsored by
Dig In.
Dig In.
But that's also another plot point that they kind of like throw to the wayside by the end. Like her work.
What? Dig In?
No.
Oh, no, she quit her job, right? In the middle.
But like, why?
I don't know. They weren't. I mean,
there's no reason why. They just did it.
They took her off the account. I don't know.
She's the only woman, and they just let her go.
Yeah, she was like, I'm gonna be like the mother who has it all. Like, she was very invested in like being, like,
that's
a
why
working
it just
mom.
like.
And then she was just like, I'm quitting my job. Also, I invited my friends to the baby shower. Also, I'm gonna go give birth with this midwife. And her husband was just like, what?
He's like, wait, hold on.
Her husband, I feel like he had the right to be kind of upset about her quitting her job. But he did not have to blow up at her about the whole midwife thing. That was like the ridiculous.
We know.
Yeah, her body.
I mean, we know why he didn't.
He wasn't upset. Like he was like mostly upset because he was like, my friend will be sad.
Yeah, and then
she's gonna like birth a human. Like, you can deal.
You can be a little sad, buddy.
You can call your friend. Like, it'll be.
But that's his kid. Pierce Brosnan wanted to be there for the birth of his kid, guys.
Come on. He got to be.
He was.
At least one of them.
Afterwards, the husband Adrian was like, just so you know, like, he's like angry and upset. I'm like, that's wildly unprofessional for a doctor to like tell a patient they're upset. Like,
Adrian is so sad that Lucy won't let me give birth to.
I'm not mad, Adrian. I'm just disappointed.
I wonder if they didn't name the babies. I wonder what they would have named them.
Obviously,
Hindle's sperm.
Adrian Jr.
Is one named Hindle and the other one's named Sperm?
Yeah, Hindle Jr. and Adrian Jr.
Yes. The last thing I want to talk about is that Ilana Glaser looked hot the entire
movie.
The entire movie. She did not miss. When she was covered in blood, so hot.
The only time she missed is when we watched her breastfeed. That
did not like that. So the writing of the film.
Right. She looked hot, but not then.
She was absolutely covered in blood. The writing of the film, the execution of the film had some issues. Ilana Glaser of the film, perfect. Costume designer, no notes. Loved all her fits. That's all.
Yeah.
She even had like nice like pregnant outfit fits. If that
it was really cute. I loved it. Okay, I'm ready to rate.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it, for the movie itself, a 2 out of 10 Peter Pan books, I guess. I would do babies falling out of the window, but I'm not gonna go look that up. For Ilana Glaser, 10 out of 10 because she's a baddie and she did an amazing job acting. And I liked her first comedy role. I thought it was really good. But the movie itself's not that good. There's just so many plot points missing. It's just really half-baked. It's fun to like watch with, like it was fun to watch with you guys, but I like wouldn't watch it again. Like if someone was like, "Oh, wait, did you catch that?" I'd be like, "Yeah, you can stream on Hulu." I mean, what you think after?
It's a Hulu original that you can stream.
Hulu.
Enjoy.
This podcast is sponsored by
Content warning though.
Hulu.
Yeah, so that's my rating.
I agree with all your points. I will give it a 4 speculums out of 10 because I do want to give credit to Ilana Glaser. I thought she was great. And I do like the idea of the movie, a horror movie about gynecologists and pregnancy. It's a good idea. As we've already talked about, there were some issues with it. But yeah, like Emma said, it was fun to watch with friends until the end there. That wasn't as fun, but otherwise, yeah, 4 speculums.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. Bloodied Ilana faces. Which is Rotten Tomatoes gave this movie a 51%. So that's the same as Rotten Tomatoes because I'm a professional movie creator. Yeah, I gave it a 5 out of 10. One, because I enjoy watching movies with you guys. So I always feel like I bump up the actual movies a little bit when I watch it with friends. The plot, horrible. Could guess it a mile away. Definitely when he said, "I want to make clones of myself," I was like,
you knew.
He is just putting his sperm into her right now. Which just means I've watched too many movies with similar plot lines. So get new plots, Hollywood. Ilana Glaser's acting, superb. I was terrified of her a little bit, but like that Bill Hader quote was like, "Mark me down as scared and horny."
Mark me down as scared and horny.
So that's
very, very accurate.
And there's a lot of plot points that I feel like could have been expanded on, but I think they started filming this in 2019, so maybe COVID made everything all out of sorts, but also like would have given more time to like write, maybe, but I don't know.
No,
so yes,
come on
5 out of 10.
All right. Well,
I guess check out our sponsors today, Hulu and Dig It.
Go order yourself a beet tofu salad and watch False Positive if you want.
Yum.
On Hulu because it's a Hulu original.
Yeah, true. We're also sponsored by Hulu today, so go ahead and do that. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And wait, guys, we hit 100 subscribers on YouTube.
Wow.
Thank you all
Thanks,
for
subscribing.
I don't know why I cannot pronounce the word. That's really exciting.
So, go subscribe to us there if you haven't, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. And
this has been
what
did we just watch?